Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. If you're a young Christian trying to navigate your faith today, the word accountability probably sounds, well, kind of exhausting, right? It can feel like this heavy, restrictive set of rules just designed to keep you down. But today we're going to completely flip the script. We are going to uncover why biblical accountability is actually the exact opposite. It's not a trap. It's a beautiful, life-giving rescue mission. So let's dive right into what the Bible actually says about the traps we set for ourselves and how we can find some genuine, lasting freedom. Okay, listen to this phrase. I don't have to answer to anybody. I mean, in our modern culture, that is basically celebrated as the ultimate goal, isn't it? Total independence, complete autonomy, doing whatever you want. But here's the catch. This mindset, it's literally the ultimate trap. It's this super tempting illusion. Believing that you don't need anyone to answer to, it actually doesn't lead to freedom at all. It leads straight down a one-way street to spiritual isolation. It totally cuts you off from the exact people God placed in your life to help you grow. So instead of that isolation, the Bible actually offers us this profound rescue plan. Galatians chapter 6 lays this out so perfectly, and verse 2 is really the anchor here. It says, "Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." Just think about that for a second. That completely reframes what accountability is. It is not some spiritual police force just waiting around the corner to catch you doing something wrong. No way. It's the mutual support of bearing each other's heavy burdens with the spirit of meekness. When you stumble, and we all stumble, spiritual believers step in to help carry that load. That right there is what true Christian community is all about. So what does this actually look like? Well, true accountability fundamentally requires taking real ownership of your actions and, their consequences. It means stepping up. It means refusing to cast blame on your circumstances or on other people, and instead acting as a foundation for trust and integrity. It's an active spiritual stewardship. And for young believers, embracing this definition is an absolute game changer. It means building incredible, rock-solid trust with your peers, your youth leaders, and, most importantly of all, with God. Now, you might be wondering, if it's so great, why do we actively avoid this kind of trust? Honestly, the reality is that our most common excuses usually just stem from busyness, a lack of prioritization, or, let's be real, just plain fear. We naturally default to this passive victim mentality. We'll say things like, well, it's not my job, or I just don't know how. But rewriting those excuses, that requires a massive fundamental shift to active ownership. We absolutely have to stop seeing ourselves as victims of our crazy schedules or our fears and start seeing ourselves as stewards of the life God has actually given us. Let's put this into a real-life scenario. When we mess up, say you get caught gossiping about a friend or scrolling places you definitely shouldn't be online, or maybe lying to a youth leader, that passive mindset immediately kicks in and deflects. It says, well, I was judged, suddenly making the other person the problem. But the language of accountability? It simply says, I made a mistake. Guys, just feel the freedom in that. Seriously, owning your actions without making a bunch of excuses is literally the very first step out of that trap of isolation. And oh man, here is another classic excuse. We love to throw up our hands and say, hey, only God can judge me whenever someone tries to hold us accountable. Sound familiar? But the alternative is incredibly freeing. It's simply saying, I'm responsible for the outcome. Just accepting the consequences of your choices completely transforms your posture. You go from being super defensive to feeling completely empowered. You aren't hiding behind spirituality to avoid responsibility anymore. You're actively owning your own spiritual walk. Now, this whole defensive posture usually culminates in the ultimate declaration of independence. You cannot tell me what to do. Boom. It's a massive wall built specifically to keep loving correction out. But the accountable believer? They take a totally different approach. They say, I am learning, and that is huge. It shows a mindset of proactive growth. It actually allows us to drop our defenses, be humble, and genuinely receive the God is trying to provide through the trusted believers He placed in our lives. Okay, let's get deeply practical here, especially with how we schedule our time. We hear, and hey, maybe we even say things like, Sundays are my absolute only day to sleep in, or I have to pick up that shift at work, or I just don't have time to volunteer. The accountability side reframes this whole picture. Instead of using sleep as a handy excuse, you admit, you know what? I'm struggling to prioritize corporate worship over my own personal comfort, and I need to trust God to restore my strength. It's about honestly evaluating if a part-time job is compromising your spiritual life, and recognizing that maybe serving God just hasn't been made a real priority in your schedule yet. And that brings us to this specific principle, which is honestly a total game changer. It's the shift from no time to no value. Now, this is a harsh but necessary truth. When you say, I don't have time for youth group or volunteering or checking in with an accountability partner, what you are fundamentally saying is that the activity is not valuable to you right now. Ouch, right? But it's true. We make time for what we value. Challenging yourself to recognize this is the absolute key to reprioritizing your life so that serving and honoring God sits right at the very top of your list. Then, there are those sneaky excuses rooted in a consumer mindset, or sometimes deep-seated fear. Things like, I don't really get anything out of the service, or I'm totally unqualified, or the people there are just so judgmental. The accountability shift here totally challenges you to move from what I get out of church to what I can give to God and to others. If you feel unqualified, you own that hesitation, but you trust that God empowers the people he calls. And if you fear judgment, accountability reminds you to just focus your eyes on worshiping God, not on the opinions of the people sitting around you. Now, here's another tricky area for a lot of us: finances. Even as young people with just part-time jobs or maybe an allowance, it is so easy to say, I just can't afford to give right now, or I'll start giving when I make more money. But true accountability, it asks us to be really honest about the reality here. When we say that, we're basically trusting our own financial management over God's. It's literally procrastinating on obedience. The accountable mindset remembers that you are a steward of God's resources, not the owner. It means faithfully trusting Him by aligning your spending with His kingdom priorities, even if it's just in very, very small amounts. All right, this brings us to some deeply sensitive issues. We've all heard, or maybe used, excuses like, I can just worship God in my own way at home, or the really tough one, I was hurt by the church. And listen, pain from previous experiences is incredibly real. It hurts. But a posture and accountability gently challenges you to say, I need to walk through this healing with God, rather than using that past pain as a justification to avoid community entirely. Because here's the thing, you absolutely cannot bear one another's burdens if you aren't even in the room. So to officially leave that trap of independence and actually step into biblical accountability, you can follow a pretty straightforward roadmap. Step 1, shift from no time to no value so you can get completely honest about your priorities. Step 2, choose trust over fear. So many of our excuses are just rooted in the fear that God won't provide the capacity, the energy, or the grace that we need. Trust Him. And step 3, take ownership over blaming. Stop pointing fingers at your crazy schedule, at your peers, or even at your past, and start truly owning your own choices. Now, you might be asking, why do all this hard work? Well, here is the incredible spiritual payoff for you as young believers. By engaging in this, you become answerable to God and to trusted friends. You actually get to experience mutual encouragement, meaning you are never, ever fighting your battles alone. It fosters real vulnerability and confession. It completely destroys spiritual isolation, keeping you anchored to biblical values, and ultimately, it is without a doubt the absolute best way to rapidly mature in your faith. Well, we have covered a whole lot of ground today, looking at exactly how to actively own our faith and avoid that huge trap of isolation. So I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to chew on as we wrap up. Who is helping you carry your burdens? And just as importantly, whose burdens are you actively carrying right now? If you can't easily answer both of those questions, well, it might just be time to step out of the excuses, drop those defenses, and fully embrace the beautiful, life-giving rescue mission of biblical accountability. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep pursuing that active ownership.